Hi everybody, it's John Kadlic from Parallel Path with the latest edition of Trail Talks. Today I have the honor of being in Vail with a buddy of mine, Ross Iverson, who is the co-founder and managing partner of Manna. I'm excited to be on the trail. What's the name of this trail we're on?
Well, we're going to Ford Park, so it's great to have you here in Vail.
Ford Park, I love it. It's beautiful, snow covered. Been getting slammed with snow the last 5 days, 50 inches or something crazy.
I know, we got lucky.
It's so good. So anyway, for those that don't know Manna, and you, of course, maybe you could spend a minute just telling everyone who Manna is and what your role is in the organization. Obviously co-founder, but what you do day to day.
Yeah, no, thanks, John. And Manna we co-founded in 2018, and we've started by focusing on how do you invest in things that are going to make people healthier, but specifically around nutrition when we got going. I mean, one of the things that we kind of were shocked with is, you've got, I think I had 40 when we started Manna. That's always an age when you kind of reflect on your health. And, I got really into health living here in Vail. I get home at the end of the day and you've got, 80-year-olds biking up Vail Pass and you're saying, hey, how am I going to do that when I'm that old? So we kind of embedded this kind of passion for, investing healthy, nutritious products. And then, we built our team in kind of based in Colorado. And as we know, Colorado is one of the healthiest states in the entire country. So it kind of all came together in 2018. And, I was fortunate enough to partner with my other co-founder, who comes from kind of one of these private equity titan families. She grew up watching her father build a global private equity firm, and kind of that coming together of kind of entrepreneurial vision around kind of a passionate investment thesis has been really fun. That's
cool. And as managing partner, what are your sort of primary responsibilities as you guys sort of divide the labor, if you will?
Yeah, I always say a finance guy, but an entrepreneur by heart, and have built my own companies and advised a lot of companies. And so a big part of my role at Manna is actually helping us build the firm. How do you hire great employees? How do you build good culture? But I sit on the investment committee of the firm. I'll typically be on a board of one of our portfolio companies to help them grow. And then it's kind of launching new investment products. And then I think lastly, as all founders of investment firms, is you're working with your investors or our limited partners. And so I get the benefit of, we've got investors in 18 different countries, and I get to talk to some of the brightest CIOs and investors around the world, which is really fun.
That's pretty awesome. So I'd be curious, you have your sort of investment criteria, but maybe even going beyond that, what do you look for when you're considering health and wellness brand investments for your portfolio?
Yeah, I think what we've looked at so far is, across is like authenticity. I think it all comes down into, there's these, people always get worried about, are there trends in health and wellness, or, who's starting these products. And, I think for us, it's, the integrity and that authenticity of the founders, the management teams, and then you turn over and it's back of label. Are you, really getting exactly what you say you're getting, or is there something else that's in there? An example is we've got a investment in True Food Kitchen, which we've got, one here in Cherry Creek in Colorado, but we've got 46 locations around the country. They are, I think, the first restaurant to be seed oil free, 100%. So that's that authenticity that we're talking about.
Well, you see a lot of health and wellness brands. I'm sure you consider lots of investments. Some meet your criteria, some don't. But when you're looking at the landscape, even beyond what you invest in, like the ones that are sort of best of the best, what are they doing right generally?
I think, health and wellness, food and beverage, nutrition, it's like a passion project for a lot of founders. But you got to match that passion with just the business acumen across all the functions. Best-in-class reporting, financials, marketing, supply chain. And I think that the ones that can get that right can actually cross the line to be sustainable. Many of these businesses will never be sustainable. And I think that that's something that we have to kind of sort out when we meet people.
And then maybe the flip side, are there sort of repeated low points or challenges that health and wellness or better for you brands encounter that you suggest people avoid or you steer clear of, like when you're coaching and advising?
Yeah, I think, one of the things with health and wellness is we're all transient, right? Like we will try one thing one month, the next thing the next month. You'll listen to a podcast, you'll buy a new supplement, or, a buddy will say, hey, let's skin up the mountain rather than ski down it. And all of a sudden you find yourself, spending a couple $1,000s on new gear, which is part of the fun of kind of this health and wellness journey. But I think that if you're a company, how do you determine if your product is going to be something that becomes sticky? Is it going to stay in somebody's lifestyle? Is it going to be something that, if it's a nutrition-based product, are you going to buy it every week at the grocery store? Or do you buy it and then you kind of go away from it to try something else? So I would say brand stickiness is something that we like to measure super early, because anybody can get into Costco and drive revenue, and grow that way. But if it's not sticky, that's going to be a here and now product.
And so how do you guys measure sticky or talk about sticky if that's such a big deal? Which
Yeah,
I mean, why it is.
that's a great question. I think we get the benefit, being a kind of a consumer-based investment firm, is consumer retail data is very prevalent, and you can get your hands on it. We obviously validate by calling buyers at Whole Foods and Target and Walmart and making sure, what are the attributes that they like about the product too. But retail data is pretty easy to get your hands on.
So that's sticky to you guys. There's a lot of conversation out there, be interested in your take on this in particular, about better for you or health and wellness brands that are consumer facing, that there's sort of this conundrum. You can't be better for you and necessarily optimize your investment returns. Now, I'm guessing you dispute that, but I'd love to just get your take on it.
All right, we made it, John.
We
got
did it!
Up the hill, going through our
That was a
2
bitch.
feet of fresh snow.
That was a bitch.
Now we're on to the pavement, so we're in good shape here. Not quite the pavement, but off the deep, fresh new powder.
Yes.
I think here's the thing is, Expo West is coming up.
Yep.
You've got all of these new products. It comes down to scale, and I think, for us, when we launched Manna Tree, you're getting, you see certain deals. You're getting introduced to these companies. You have a small amount of capital place. And I think the difference is we've grown up. Now we have a little bit more capital to place. So we really like companies that are a little bit further along in their journey. And so I think when you say, is it a struggle? It is a struggle to go from 0 to 5 million, 5 to 10 million. A lot of these companies won't ever hit profitability until they get closer to 50 million, unless you're some type of, exclusive direct-to-consumer online business. You might have the margins to do it. And so how do you cross the chasm, and how do you make sure that you have good alignment with your investors to get to 50 million? But if you've made it to 50, that is the golden opportunity to get a business and a product that is going to stay around for 25 years. And I think many of these founders, the reason that they found their businesses is because they want to make people healthier and they have a passion. Maybe they had a health issue. Maybe they had a family member that all of a sudden they saw the light, like, why am I consuming this much sugar? Or, how do I get more protein in my diet? And I think what we find a lot of times is that passion can drive those companies to a certain point. And then from there, we really try to help them put in kind of what I would call as institutional business management. And if we can get them to 150 to 200 million of revenue, then somebody will probably purchase that company, and it'll be, you'll see it on your shelves at Target for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And I think that's the dream of most founders.
But you bring up the important point. There's lots of passionate founders who, quote unquote, cooked up something in their kitchen that's pretty
Right.
amazing, but it might be niche-y, or it might be so premium it only serves a certain
Right.
audience
Yeah.
size. So unlike, selling a mass product or something like that, you probably have to work extra hard to fill the void there so that you can get the returns you want.
Yeah, and I think one of the things is, as we go through a construction zone here, you want to go right or left?
Let's go left.
Okay.
Let's go left.
I think what you really need to think about is, why do you want investment capital? And maybe you don't. Maybe you shouldn't take on investment capital. I think one of the reasons why people say it's so hard to build these businesses is, the expectations go through the roof when you work with a venture capital firm.
Right.
Do a seed round, Series A round. They want their returns. It just speeds up everything. I think if somebody said, hey, I want to keep small, I want to build a $10 million business, I want to pay myself okay and be a niche player, then they shouldn't take investment capital. And I think that's a really big decision early on that needs to be made.
And do you think people sort of, quote unquote, chase the money erroneously when they don't have a good sense of where they want to go from a future vision standpoint? Does that happen a lot?
Yeah, I mean, for better or worse, once every 3-4 years, and we had one of these in our portfolio that had an amazing IPO. You've got Pepsi buys a energy drink for $4 billion. And all of a sudden, there are these founders out there that have made $200, $300, $400 million. How many industries can you make $200 or $300 million in 10 years?
Yeah.
So what naturally happens is you get a lot of people that are just chasing what I would call that financial dream. Not all the people, and I think that drives behavior of saying, hey, we want to get on the conveyor belt of scale and essentially take on a lot of capital in order to accelerate that.
Right. So, I mean, would your advice be have a real deep conversation with yourself first on where you want this to go and not just chase the dream sequence? It's pretty rare out there. It's not going to happen that often. But don't just sort of seek out support and funding too quickly if you haven't really reconciled that.
I think so. I think that, and then the second piece is look around the room and say, if I take on a $25 million investment, is my team, could they do it without me and produce results? I think a lot of times what we find is that CEO or that founder takes on the money, and then the pressure of the world is on their shoulders. They end up having to work 3 times more because that team hasn't been built. Mm-hmm. And I think that is a big watch out. I think, founder burnout is a huge risk for us when we meet people. And we just like to augment that talent. And so I think, come up to the mountains, ride the chairlift, look at the peak, do that soul searching, and then make sure you go back to the conference room and look around the room and say, hey, is this the group of people that, the 5 or 6 people that can drive the results that we need?
Okay, good advice. You guys are students of health and wellness. You publish a lot of content. You speak at conferences. I'm just curious, maybe what you're seeing on the horizon right now. What are some health and wellness trends that you're really watching closely?
Yeah, I mean, this is, I think, the first time in history that we have a generational alignment in this band of consumer, which is health and wellness. We have 20-year-olds paying attention, and we have 80-year-olds paying attention. And so, our tagline at Manna is helping consumers live better longer, which means, for maybe the younger generation, you just want to get up, you want to have good sleep, so what are those products that you're doing to enhance your sleep? Is it weighted blankets? Is it, saunas become a big thing with people doing more saunas to get better rest. But then on the other side is the supplement space.
Yeah.
And I think supplements have always had a stigma, do they work, do they not work?
Right.
But I think more and more you're seeing, this precision medicine mindset that you might take a supplement for a certain enhancement in your life. And then we all go through cycles of aging and other things, and those things are going to need to, shift. I think on the longevity side of this kind of living better longer, strength training. People are really oh my gosh,
it's
I didn't realize that muscle mass is the best place to, regulate blood glucose, making sure that you don't become insulin resistant. So for, how much of our population is diabetic, you want the muscle mass. But then, up here in the mountains, I skied with a guy in his mid-70s a couple weeks ago, and he blasted off the back. I couldn't keep up with him. And I'm saying, what is he doing? Or what do I need to do to be there? And I think once you have a vision that you can live at that level, it's all about health span and what can people do to incorporate into their day-to-day routines. So you are skiing off the back bowls until the week before you die, right? Like, how do we do that? And I think it's possible. I think we're at that point where, you know, you can keep replacing those joints in your body and doing those things to stay healthy.
That's so true. We see the same thing being in the health and wellness space, that there's so much focus on physical, emotional, mental health across generations than there probably has been ever.
Right.
And so it's interesting that you have such a wide span that you can address when you're contemplating investments and how to make things grow.
Yeah, exactly. Well, should we cross and go over this way?
Let's do it. So maybe as we're getting towards the end of our time together, I always like to find out what people are doing for their own personal health and wellness. I'm sure you could probably come up with 10 things, but is there one or two that you're either trying that's new and different, or that you're particularly passionate about for yourself?
So I go on these cycles. Like as of today, if you search my body, there are no wearable devices. I've done the wearables, I've done the Whoops, I've done the Oura rings, I've done the CGMs. It's all great data. I think I'm in this kind of simplicity mode right now with my journey. Definitely am doing strength training 3 or 4 days a week. But with what we're doing right now, I'm just focused on movement. You know, one of the things I told you before we started was, I just told my employees, like, my eyes don't love staring at an LED light most of the day. Like, you know me, let's just do a phone call. So this loop that we just did, I try to do a couple times a day on my calls. And so, you know, getting away from the desk, moving a couple hours a day. My yellow lab is usually my end of my day hikes up into the canyon. And it's just making sure that it's more about integration. It's not like, okay, I need to carve out this 90 minutes of my day to find the gym today. It starts with movement, and then I need to carve out this amount of time for my desk time and, you know, my work time. But I think it's just a shift in mindset of making sure that those 5-6 days a week that I'm in the office, that it doesn't become a sedentary lifestyle.
Yeah.
And then especially when you're on airplanes, right? Like, airplane time those are those worst times. So I would say my mindset this year is simplicity with health and wellness. Obviously nutrition, you know, low sugar, high protein, and, you know, high fiber. Like, it's, I mean, we read so much about how complicated this is. You do those 3 things and you're in pretty good shape.
Yeah, that's so true. All right, well, before we officially sign off, since we are in Vail, you're an avid skier, people are gonna wanna know, like, where's the best place to go on this mountain from your vantage point, even though not everyone may be at your skill level?
You know, as a local, you never give away your secrets.
I was gonna see if I could get you.
There's a reason they call it a secret stash. So I would say anywhere on the west side of Vail Mountain is where the tourists should live, if that answers your question.
Okay, let people infer from that what they may.
Exactly.
So, well, hey, I'm glad you took the time to do a walk and talk with me. And it's a gorgeous day in Vail, and has been. So I appreciate you setting some time aside for me.
Thanks so much, John.
Good to see all you guys. We'll see you out on the trail again here sometime soon. Take care, everybody.